This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right, it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High podcast. Thank you for joining us. Whatever platform you are joining us on, be sure to hit subscribe because you never want to miss any Mile High tick, just like you don't want to miss being at Mile High 13. And don't let the 13 scare you. Don't think I'm going to skip and go to 14 because 13 is an unlucky number. It's going to be the lucky year. And 5,280 feet, rise up to milehigh.com is where you can get the details. And one of our main stage speakers is here with us on the podcast, the extraordinary Dr. Justin Ohm. The more and more I get to know him personally, the more and more I love him, and I'm really glad to have him here. He's a second-generation chiropractor, family chiropractor with a strong focus on perinatal care and newborn care. He's the father of four, and just that being said, let's pray for him for being a father of four and also coordinating the ICPA. So, doing all of those things takes a certain adaptive nerve system, and starting that young, as he was, certainly getting care at, shortly after birth with a family history. And thank you, just like myself, thank you for joining us today, Dr. Justin O.
Danny, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm even more excited to be out there in Denver for Mile High 13. And I think you're right. It is going to be our lucky number 13 this year. I was, mentioning before we started how just almost addicting the energy is that you feel when you walk into Mile High. And I was there a couple years ago. And I just can't wait to come back and experience that and connect with everyone again. And thanks so much for inviting me to speak there.
I'm so thrilled to have you there. It's going to be a Vegas theme, Ocean's 13. So we're going to pull out a lot of fun. Now, that being said, the ICPA is fun. And I'd like to start there. Let people know, what's the ICPA's why?
So the ICPA, the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, was founded 40 years ago by Dr. Larry Webster. And the interesting thing about Larry was he had a really, almost expert master level of being able to connect with children, with babies, and really kind of, sync up with them. And his idea for chiropractic for kids was not to help them necessarily just with that symptom that that they might be coming in with, and not just to impact that family and their health journey, which obviously chiropractic does both of those things for families and for kids. But he had this bigger vision, and that theme I think has carried through with the ICPA, and that bigger vision is chiropractic today for a better world tomorrow. And so he's talking about, if we can take care of enough kids, if we can get enough babies adjusted under care, exposing them to the chiropractic philosophy, infusing them with that trust in the body, because you know as well as I do, Danny, that the fear that's out there when it comes to health, and the fear that's instilled during the birth process for moms, and then, oh my gosh, pediatrics in this country and probably elsewhere around the world, it's a very fear-based model. And I think people are just, sick of it. And so giving them that trust, giving them that different perspective that really only chiropractic delivers today, it's so needed. And if we can do that on scale, if enough chiropractors can do that, Larry's vision was this will change the world. And it feels, I don't know if you feel this, I know we went through the craziness of the past few years, but it still feels like we're at this inflection point almost when it comes to where we're headed as a humanity, as a civilization. And I feel strongly that chiropractic has a strong role to play in steering that direction. So that's the big idea when it comes to the ICPA. And I feel like holding on to that vision, keeping that vision alive is really, what I'm committing to at this point.
And now that brings back to you. So, family practice, pediatric practice, and then growing up in a chiropractic family. What was your experience as a kid growing up in a chiropractic world, a chiropractic household, as compared to, maybe your neighbor kids, right? And seeing a family practice, through your childhood.
Yeah, I think second generation chiropractors, I don't know if this is a universal experience, but I remember going to chiropractic conferences growing up and hearing people's kind of origin story of how they got into chiropractic, right? And everyone has this kind of like, miracle story where chiropractic saved their life. And
Like Spider-Man, we all have origin
yeah,
stories, right?
yeah, exactly. It was all very exciting. And I said, damn it, as a second generation chiropractor, you really don't have that because you're just adjusted your whole life. It's really all you know. So you kind of end up taking, some of that for granted. And certainly as a kid growing up, you kind of take the philosophy for granted, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't infuse into you, every cell of your being. And now I've come to really appreciate that experience because gosh, I mean, the trust, it's just kind of like, it's just a given, in terms of my personal philosophy that, yeah, the body knows what it's doing. And it's amazing to me kind of on a regular basis, but especially over the past, number of years, few years, as that mistrust in the body was so prevalent and so fear, invoking for so many people that I'm like, wow, what a gift I was given, growing up with this kind of philosophy. And what a gift it was for me to be able to kind of explain to my kids and make decisions for my kids over the past number of years to really kind of help instill that in them as well. And I think they saw the frantic, fear option adopted by so many, and this, rooted in philosophy trust model that we were, employing at home. And it created a really important contrast for them at a pivotal time for, my oldest as she was, just coming into her teenage years. So I'm very grateful for that now. And I know I don't have the exciting origin story, but you know, I was born when my parents were still in chiropractic school. My mom had me on a Friday night, and Monday morning she put me in a sling and they headed off to class. And she was quickly stopped by one of the deans there at the college and said, "What are you doing? You can't go to school with a baby." And she said, "What are you talking about? He was on the inside, now he's on the outside. What's the big deal?" So, I'm going to class. And the dean kind of, threatened her and said, "Well, just so you know, if I get even one single complaint, we're going to have to put an end to this." And of course, I turned out to be the most perfect baby you could possibly imagine. And there were no complaints. And, I kind of, my first year of life was, was their last year of chiropractic school. So I ended up graduating with them. And I don't know how much that affected my psyche, but I do still run into, chiropractors, and they'll mention in that first meeting that they remember when I was, running around the school or poking my head into different classrooms, and then they always drop in too that they've seen me naked, which is embarrassing but also understandable as back in those times. But so yeah, my parents had me at home, and then we kind of followed in that direction. That's just where we felt comfortable, my wife and I, with our 4 kids. I will say my parents were a little bit crazy. They had us at home without a midwife, and we felt comfortable. We wanted a midwife there, that experience. But talk about that ultimate trust in the body. They're saying, "What are you talking? Yeah, of course, we'll just push the baby out on Friday night." Now, there was no midwife there, but there were about like 20 or 30 chiropractic students there. And so I came out, and it was just a chiropractic party, and I've been living that party, ever since. So that's my origin story.
Isn't it funny? Like, do you ever have like the experience or the thought of like, you're so far from having a non-chiropractic life that you can't even relate when people like you don't even understand that people don't have their spine checked, you know?
It's really hard. It's hard in practice too
But
when,
yeah,
someone comes in and they're all the way over here and you're like, "Oh yeah, I have to meet you, over here," and slowly kind of bring you along the way. But I do think having a kind of a confidence or when you exude that trust in the body, that's really kind of almost infectious. People are attracted to that. They want
right.
that. Wow, you're really, you're really looking at this through a different lens. I want that lens, and then you can
Yeah.
start to, offer them those perspectives and some of the terminology that helps bring them along the way.
I have that experience sometimes. I'm like, I can't even relate. And yes, it's in practice, and you have to like, okay, they're on the other end of the chasm. I can't ask them to jump, right? I have to, bring them along a little bit. But sometimes you're just like, how do you live like that? I just don't even understand it. So
Yeah.
now here's an interesting thing is that people there's this question of or this dichotomy you'll see in chiropractic of people that want to take care of families and take care of kids. Do you take care of the parents first and focus on chiropractic and say, hey, bring your kids along, or focus on the kids first and then, hey, the parents get care after?
Right, right. Yeah, and certainly people can go about it different ways. I will say, Larry was very focused on, having the child get adjusted. That was he was, the grandfather of pediatric chiropractic. And when he passed away in the late 90s and my mom stepped in and started, kind of helping to run the ICPA, she really brought that perspective that it's very important to take care of mom when she's pregnant. So that idea of taking care of the pregnancy, helping to try to make that as gentle of a process as possible, the birth process,
Hmm.
because we know how stressful and how traumatic that is in our, kind of typical medical system. And really even a perfectly natural, ideal home birth, that's pretty intense for the baby, pretty intense for the mother. And taking care of mom leading up to that birth process, it
Hmm.
biomechanically it sets the stage for that labor to be more successful, to be more gentle, to be easier, and there's data kind of showing that stuff. But I think the other thing that it really does is it starts the process of exposing that mom to our philosophy, that trust in the body. So much of birth is that emotional component. And if you're going into birth and it's this big question mark and you're worried about everything that can go wrong, instead of being, occasionally reminded about everything that's going right during that pregnancy, and really kind of appreciating how brilliant your body and the baby's body is managing this, huge adaptation. And when you frame chiropractic care in that context, right, that
Hmm.
chiropractic during pregnancy is to enhance that mother's adaptability. And of course, that's going to be beneficial as we kind of approach that labor and that birth. She's starting to think to herself, well, do you do this for babies too? Do you take care of babies? Because I kind of want my baby to be highly adaptable as well. And I think this is the way that I kind of really tend to hone in on explaining what chiropractic is. I don't go into, terminology and try to kind of define new terms for them. I use the terms that they already use. I use the terms that they already know. And adaptability is a big one. Like we're going to adapt. You're adapting during pregnancy, your baby's adapting in utero before they're even born. And then, oh my gosh, they're born and now they're being held mostly in this arm because that's the side that feels more comfortable for you. Or they're sleeping, in a co-sleeper next to the bed only on one side. They're going to start adapting to their environmental stressors as
Hmm.
well. And
Hmm.
if we can kind of frame it in that sense, and I'll tell you too, this really is helpful for dads. Family chiropractors will often have moms on board, babies on board. They're coming in, but dad might not be fully on board. What are we doing here? And he's sitting there, with his arms
Uh-huh.
crossed. And I think framing chiropractic not as something that they have to do, like, oh my gosh, you have to do this, otherwise X, Y, and Z, and these processes in the body are, again, kind of almost veering into that fear-based mindset instead of saying, the body's brilliant. It's brilliant with chiropractic. It's brilliant without chiropractic. The adjustment is simply helping to wipe the slate clean of that adaptive stress that's accumulated up to this point. And it doesn't all happen in one visit, but
Right.
doing that on a regular basis, it really helps to give your child the advantage of a highly adaptable nervous system. And when dad hears that, when dad hears advantage, I want an advantage for my child. Like it lands in a certain
Uh-huh.
way, and I think you and I can kind of feel that too as dads. We want the best for our kids. We we're dedicated to their success, and here's something that they don't have to do, but they are being shown they have the opportunity to do if they choose, that gives their child an advantage. And I think that's a really kind of key way to distinguish what we're doing in care, especially when you have that family new patient appointment where mom, dad, and the kids are all sitting across from you, and how do you explain what's going on here?
Right, right, right. Now, 40 years. Wow. Are you guys doing something for 40 years?
Yeah, so the ICPA turns 40 next year, 2026, and we're
2026.
doing our big ICPA gathering, and we're going to try to blow this one out a little bit. So that's May 15th and 16th of
Uh-huh.
2026 down in Reston, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. Don't love being super close to Washington, but it is very, very convenient for everyone to get there. I'm more apolitical, if you haven't gathered that, yet. So I don't love the Washington vibe, but we bring a certain energy to that region as well. And it's all about love. It's all about family practice, taking care of kids, taking care of moms, and that's the ICPA mission. Kind of establishing and advancing the chiropractic family lifestyle. And what that means is watching a family get the big idea, as BJ said, and when they get that, when they develop that trust in the body, it changes the trajectory of that family, not just that child. And you see that family approaching health and approaching life, in a whole new way. That's really it's the most rewarding aspect of practice for me, is watching families kind of really pull in and become empowered and grab the reins of their own healthcare and start to make informed, conscious choices when it comes to their healthcare. That's a difficult family to control. You know what I mean? They're in control at that point, and that's really personally, and what the ICPA is all about, is empowering those families to kind of get to that point.
That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. And by the way, is that open profession wide? Do you have to be a member of the ICPA or when you have that in May
It
2026?
is marketed to the membership. You can be a non-member and you can come. I'll say this: membership is quite affordable for the ICPA for what you get, and
Right.
it discounts the ticket price for
Right.
going to that event as well. So we kind of like structured it that way. It kind of just makes sense to become a member. It's cheaper overall if you do that and come to that event. And of course, we want to prove to you, that this is the most obvious membership to renew on a regular basis. That the membership benefits that you're getting, not just discounts for classes and seminars, which we offer, but also that quarterly subscription to the Pathways magazine, and access to the referral directory. So lots and lots of moms find me personally, not because of my position with the ICPA, but simply because I'm on the referral directory and I'm listed as Webster certified chiropractor.
Right.
So that's very helpful for bringing in. We think the membership pays for itself within the first month, because you're going to be getting those new patients as a result of that exposure.
And you're supporting an extremely important initiative in chiropractic, and it's very important value. I mean, even if you didn't get so many benefits and savings, it's been very important, I think, to give back to what's given you so much, and who wouldn't want to support kids getting chiropractic care? Truly, it's that's at least how I see it. So now, did you? Well, a lot of people, when they think, you know, people don't necessarily get exposed to pediatric care in chiropractic school or how to run a practice. Um, is someone starting out in a family practice? Is that some? Can people build that from scratch, and can it be sustainable?
Yeah, I think there's there's a lot of fear when you're a student. I was just speaking to the students out at Life West, and you're approaching graduation, and you're wondering, okay, crap, I have this student loan payment. I'm going to have to start supporting my family, or at least myself. And am I going to be able to pull this off in practice? Are the patients going to come in? And maybe I should just, I'll put that dream on hold of doing the family practice, or that highly rewarding style practice that you're envisioning, and perhaps maybe I'll just, be an associate at a personal injury office, or something where I know that I'm guaranteed that salary. And what I want to try to get across to students is, you can be successful in family practice. There's so many families looking for this alternative. The world needs more family chiropractors. I told the students out at Life West, I want all of you to be successful in practice. I don't care if you're next door to me, in Philadelphia, and in the home office here in the suburbs. I want all of you to be successful. There's more than enough families who are in need. Every mom who's pregnant, who's approaching that birth process, needs us. But at the same time, maybe we don't go into that family practice, and start things out by, taking out a massive business loan and putting together the practice of your dreams. I didn't do that. I came into my family's practice. I wasn't given a salary. I was given a simple, percentage split. And so there was nothing guaranteed. It was just who I saw, that determined how much I was going to make. And, that maybe that was a little harsh, but I think they did that for a reason, because they knew I had to learn how to build a practice. And so there's no easy way to do that, but the way that I approached it was keep my overhead extremely low, slowly build and start to kind of build my own personal reputation. Very quickly, within the first year, I identified that, moms were coming out to the suburban practice, to the home office that they had, been practicing in for, 20 plus years at that point, 30 years. And they would come out during pregnancy, but then they would drop off after they had the baby, because it's hard to make that trek from Philadelphia out to the suburbs, 30 minutes or whatever, when you have a newborn. So they were less likely to continue care. And we said, boy, I think maybe if I open up something small to start, in Philadelphia. And so that's what I did. I went to them. And so in practice, just have your eyes open, I try to identify those gaps in the market. And I started renting space from prenatal yoga studio. And I would literally come in with my portable Thule drop table, Tuesday nights, just a 4-hour stretch. I would set up the table and I'd see, a handful or a dozen patients. And I'm like, okay, I have to see this many to pay for the rent this month. And then after that, I'm in the, I'm in the black. I'm doing well. And pretty quickly it became obvious that a 4-hour block of time was not going to be enough. Right around that same time, I met an acupuncturist who was just starting her practice. She had come in and we started under care. And I said, let's go in on something together. So I started renting space from her as she opened her practice. It gave her the cushion of having a reliable, renter. And it gave me the cushion of not taking on, my own full responsibility rental. And I did that for 10 years. And how I approached care was, and I wasn't booked, right from the get-go. It was a slow build. And the way that I did that slow build was, anytime someone was there with me, in front of me, on my table, etc., I gave them 100%. I felt like my best marketing was going to be their future word of mouth. And I intended to be the chiropractor that they measured all chiropractors against. Maybe they've been to a chiropractor before. Maybe they were going to move a few blocks away, or even, 30 minutes or an hour away and try someone else, and that's fine. But I always wanted them to know the level of care that I was going to provide. And if they ever needed to come back, I'm here for them. And so that was kind of the energy that I put into the practice. And very quickly, your reputation starts to precede you. They're like, oh, wow, it's different there. You're not just a number. You're not being rushed in and rushed out. it's individualized care, and they really got that. And I think there's a lot of things that go into that, down to how you set up your office. Are you making it, kid friendly? Is there an area where there's toys where kids feel like, oh, I love coming here? Or are they walking into a very professional environment where they're, right off the bat a little bit nervous? To even how you palpate someone, right? So much is conveyed non-verbally in that touch. Are we palpating someone, quickly and routinely? Or are you conveying the sentiment of empathy with that touch? And I think that really comes through, and you can kind of feel that, right? So having a high degree of confidence and having a high degree of intention when you're palpating someone, I think it changes the experience. And I think, wow, this is different. I don't know what it is, but this is different. And certainly that comes with time, and that comes with experience. For me, it came with, taking the ICPA program, going through that and becoming more comfortable with taking care of kids and pregnant moms. And then it comes with, things that are becoming a little bit more, foreign, I think, at least to, my kids' generation. And I'm sure this is starting to apply to young chiropractors as well. The ability to connect face to face, I'm very awkwardly staring right at the camera here instead of your face, but I'm doing that so that you get the impression that I'm connected with you. But doing that in person, does the younger chiropractor have that capacity? Have they worked on that? Have they built that eye contact and that smiling? And I bring up the idea of smiling because in practice, especially when you're taking care of kids, especially babies, who you would think like, oh, it's just this baby, they're oblivious. No. They look to you. And if they see a smile, they instantly fire that ventral vagus and they're put at ease. Oh, I can trust this person. And if you're stern-faced and very professional because I'm a doctor of chiropractic and I'm working here, that's harder for them to create that level of trust. And of course, trust is the first step. You have to build that trust. And when you do that, that individual, that mom, that baby, they open up, right? You've established a connection with them. They have trust. They're literally, and this is like measurable, they're literally releasing more oxytocin before you even do the adjustment. And if we can get that cascade of events happening, they are increasing their adaptability regardless of the adjustment that you're giving. So early on, it's like, oh my God, your technique and line of drive and specificity, it all matters so much. And I'm telling you, Danny, the longer I'm in practice, the more I'm like, what matters the most is our ability to connect with someone, right? And if we build that connection, if we build that trust, we're enhancing their adaptability. And then, of course, the adjustment on top of it, which I've already explained, that's the goal, right? Enhanced adaptability of the nervous system. And so to do the adjustment without taking into, context, the importance of that trust and that connection, I think we're kind of handicapping ourselves. And so it really is this kind of full package approach. And then, gosh, I don't know how you couldn't be successful, with that approach, and with patients. And so, coming out of school, it's okay to start lean. It's okay to be an associate. It's okay to not get a guaranteed salary. It's okay to kind of have to work for it. And on the side, building your own, satellite practice. Certainly I would be weary of signing a non-compete, that type of thing for the younger chiropractor. It's like, no. I'm working with, for you just on a percentage split basis, and I'm going to entertain kind of opening up a small practice over here, sharing space with a friend of mine or whatever the case may be, and just build it. Build it slowly, but build it, and build it with each patient that comes into your office. And I think that's the road to, success in family practice.
Are you struggling with a website that doesn't reflect the heart of your chiropractic practice? Well, here at Chiropractic Webco, we craft stunning, high-converting websites exclusively for chiropractors so that you can attract more of your dream patients. Show up professionally online and finally feel proud to share your site. From strategy to launch, we handle it all, so you can focus on changing lives. Let us make your website your #1 marketing asset. Visit cherrypickedwebco.com to book your free audit today.
There's two things I want to highlight for our listeners that you said. A is, hey, we want to be excellent in our technique, and who you're being has such a big part of what you're doing. You can have two people. This is an old thing I'm sure you've heard of, like doing the same exact technique, but you might prefer one to the other. And it's about of who you're being, which is kind of what you outlined. And I also learned that you had about the same business model as me when I opened my practice. I had $1,000 in the bank account and I just had to be able to cover the bills by the end of the month. And I had some posters and a table. I figured, this is just going to be easy success. I know business people would cringe at that, but I just, I didn't realize I just had trust in that. Of course, people are going to, come in. Why wouldn't they? It's the best thing that will ever happen to them, in their life. Little did pretty quickly that it wasn't that easy, and I had to grow a bunch. Now what's next on how we grow pediatric chiropractic? That more and more people realize the importance of care for the spine and nerve system, not just soon after birth, but during birth and leading up to birth.
Yeah, I think we're living through this transition where chiropractic college teaches you the basics, and then you come out, or even while you're still a student, you say, oh, I want to specialize in this direction, and you take a program like the ICPA's program or something along the lines, and you gain the extra expertise. And now we're at a point where we have so many members, we've kind of infused into the profession, largely as a result of, my mom's life work. And she really kind of grew this organization from 500 members when she started to, 6,000. And now we're, approaching 10,000. So it's like, it's continuing to grow. But as you do that, more than just the numbers, you're affecting the understanding of the average chiropractor who gets exposed to that model of care, of building trust, of kind of like an alternative to the fear-based, obviously for, competency and pregnancy and pediatrics. Those members now are out in the profession teaching at chiropractic colleges. They're on the boards of chiropractic colleges. They're on the boards of other national organizations. They're, presidents of chiropractic colleges. And I think we're at such a wonderful, pivotal, time that I think we can start to have this influence even in the school. And if more students get exposed to this, of this avenue of success, this avenue of practice, imagine, I started chiropractic school and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a sports chiropractor. And I think a lot of students go into that because that's glamorous, Right. And then, very quickly it was like, because I went to Palmer, Florida, just when they were opening. And it was like, oh, you're going to start the pediatric club, right, Justin? You have to. It was kind of the assumption. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I will. And I started to see this kind of path, unroll in front of me where it's like, oh, family care. And what dawned on me quite recently, actually, is like, oh, yeah, I remember that dream of being a sports chiropractor, But being a family chiropractor, taking care of babies shortly after they're born, you are taking care of athletes. You're taking care of the future's athletes, right? You're taking care of kids right when they're born, helping them achieve that potential to reach, full optimal functioning well before they've even considered athletics. And so I see this with my own kids, and they've been adjusted their whole life. And I don't want to take credit for their achievements, but they're like amazing athletes. I'm moving my daughter into her college dorm. She's starting college. This week I'm moving her in, and she's there on a scholarship for pole vaulting.
Oh,
which,
wow.
That's a, intense, pretty, fine-tuned body control sport. It's a very niche sport that she found herself in. And I don't want to, I don't want chiropractic necessarily to take that credit, but she's been adjusted from birth, don't forget, and that I think plays a role. And then my next daughter down, she's like a phenomenal soccer player, and she made the U.S. women's national U15 team last year. So she's on this
Wow.
crazy trajectory as well, and we have to go pick her up tomorrow from a one of the professional teams, women's professional teams, has her out there for a camp that they're running. So she has all this opportunity kind of laid out in front of her, and I'm like, she's been adjusted since birth too. And so here I am now with these kind of, and it's not just my own kids, it's the kids I've been seeing in practice, and they're getting older and they're turning to sports and they're highly, functioning and performing as well. So, at this now I'm like, oh my gosh, the dreams come true. I am like, I'm a sports chiropractor on the side. I'm a family chiropractor, but I'm like, some of these kids are going to be athletes and you got to be able to take care of them as well at those higher levels. So, it's very rewarding. There's not a dull day. You don't, oh, I got to go to work. It's really just such a rewarding style of practice. And, to cap it off, obviously, and this is especially true, I think, if you're not, in insurance and you're kind of, people are coming in because it's paid for in whatever form or fashion. They're coming in because they want to come in, which means they're coming in because they like you. They're not coming in, week after week with their family because they don't like you. And if they like you, you probably like them. So what I find myself in now is a practice where I take care of people who I would consider friends all day. And that's what I do. I just see my friends all day. And it's, you know what I mean? It's people that are so appreciative to come in, and the kids are, love it. They're fighting to get on the table, and you have to come up with kind of, techniques to determine, what kid is allowed to get adjusted first. I mean, this is a very rewarding style. You know what I mean? And then I come home and my wife perhaps wasn't showered with that level of appreciation all day from my own kids, as many moms might identify with. And here I've been, thank you so much, Dr. Justin. Thank you so much. All day long. And so I have to and then I shower some appreciation in that direction. So, but this is the lifestyle of a family chiropractor, and it's just phenomenal.
It's funny because you and I, more and more I get to know you, the more I'm like, we have a very similar life. Like I say to people, I mean, you in coordinating, people don't always realize in coordinating a lot of the the ICPA, there's a lot of work involved with that people don't necessarily know or realize or get behind the scenes and coordinating the different things I do, from network and Mile High and mentoring doc. There's a lot of work around that. I always say to people, because I go into the office and I go to this, really nice office, and I see people, I'm like, this is the most free, fun part of my day, is seeing practitioners there and people that I love coming to see. It's like I just hang out there and like my friends visit me, and that's, I say that all the time because people, I'm like, this is the best part of my day, being here for the couple hours. Everything else is a little bit more, there's a different kind of work involved with it.
Absolutely.
And I know know the experience.
Oh yeah, 100%. And and that's why, like, I'm in practice now, very limited hours because of kind of my shift over to the ICPA, and I have an associate now, which that's a whole other hurdle in practice.
Right.
Once you kind of can bring on an associate, it's very liberating, but it's also very challenging when you've built a very specific model of practice leading up to that point. It's letting go of control, really. Right. And there's some, letting go of hubris as well in that process. But I still find myself, I'm like, I need a little bit of time in practice. I still need a little bit of time because that lights me up. And when you connect with a child and you give them that healing capacity because of that connection, that adaptability, merely from the connection. Here I am, I'm not getting adjusted all day. I'm adjusting all day. Right. But I leave more adaptable. Yep. I leave lifted up because my social vagus is fired just as much when I'm doing that work with kids. Yeah. And is there anything more healing than looking a baby in the eyes and that baby just connecting with you? It's literally healing. And I remember when I first joined the practice, my mom said, "Oh, thank God. I'm so busy with the ICPA. I'm going to give you everyone except for the babies. I'm going to keep the babies." I said, "Well, that's fine with me. I'm new in practice, and that's like one of the last things to become, very kind of comfortable with." And now I know she was keeping those babies selfishly. She was keeping those babies selfishly because it was turning on her social Vegas, and she was getting that bump from that as well. So that's
Right.
kind of that's the state that I'm at right now.
Right. Yeah. I totally get it. So, two last things to winding down here. One is there anything particular that you want the audience to learn from you, or a message you have for the chiropractors and chiropractic students that will be listening and watching this?
Well, I think for the students, certainly there is a pathway to success in family practice, and it doesn't have to rely on taking out that big business loan on top of your student loans. And I know, the anxiety of that first student loan payment, kind of coming in, approaching. And likewise, I think there's also a level of uncertainty when you're a student of I don't know how to, I wasn't taught the business side of things. I need to, hire a coach or, join a program that whatever sort of, cost is associated with that. It's just something that I've never kind of gone in that direction. But I want to liberate students from the feeling that that's something that they need to do. Yes, you do need support. You do need mentors. And
Mm-hmm.
there are mentors out there who would love to ensure that you're successful. And it's just a matter of connecting with them. And when you're at places like Mile High, or when you're at places like the ICPA gathering, that's where you meet people who
Right.
genuinely want you to be successful. And that was my path. I didn't have a, paid coach. I had mentors that I could reach out to. What do you do with this? Got any ideas on, what I might be doing wrong here? And that's the mechanism by which we can ensure, as chiropractors who have been in the business for a little bit now, to ensure that the next generation is successful. And then we need that giving, in the profession. And you know, people like the attendees of Mile High, people like ICPA members, those are the ones willing to do that giving. So find those people, reach out to them, ask for their help. You'd be surprised how willing they are to help you.
Yeah, yeah. And I did not know that when I first starting putting together Mile High, and I envisioned, I just thought I wanted to have something that was people could get real chiropractic content and from the stage, because you weren't getting that in our part of the country, other than, treatment focused content. People to get that for, and that's what I thought. And then I realized very, very quickly that people like the community and the connection, and they needed that. They need that as chiropractors. They love being around other chiropractors that have the same values and principles. And I didn't realize that that was what was going to emerge as what people really need. And I know you get that. People gain that so much. I see it with the ICPA, and I cannot encourage enough people to be part of that, because chiropractors thrive in community. So, and I really am grateful for the community that you guys set up with the ICPA. So it's valuable, and this is why people need to get around that, and get started learning more about taking care of kids, as we know you don't learn enough of that in chiropractic school. You only get small
Yeah.
small amount, and so and if we're going to change a generation, it's going to start there. So and I want to thank you again for taking your time, away from family, away from the ICPA, to join us at Mile High. And if you're not registered yet, this is a highlight, is to see Justin Ohm on stage at Mile High. He doesn't go too many places. I'm honored that you chose to be there. And then secondly, for taking the time to be with us on the podcast today. I know when people give the level that you do, how important your time is. So I appreciate you doing that for us and for helping chiropractors in all the ways that you do. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you as well, Danny. And like you said, we do live very similar lives, so I know very well the amount of effort that you put into Mile High, and obviously that comes off as soon as you walk in. So thank you for all that you do to create that space, create that environment for chiropractors to be able to connect with a similar philosophy, and let's get to it, because I think if we can kind of strengthen the profession, we do really have a strong opportunity to affect the trajectory of where this civilization is going in terms of health and wellness and outlook and trust in the body and all of it.
Absolutely. And so we look forward to seeing you on Higher Ground. I look forward to seeing some of our viewers and listeners to join us. RiseUpToMileHigh.com, September 25th. I'll say this again. I've said it a ton of times. That week is like the peak week of how the leaves change in Colorado. And people travel to Colorado to go up into the mountains just to see them change. I kid you not, because it's beautiful. If you're coming to Mile High, be smart and stay an extra day and make an experience of not just being in the hotel and being with everybody, because that in itself is experience, but also get a little bit of time to scenery, especially if you bring your team. Your team will remember that, that experience, or if you're coming with your family. I cannot emphasize enough, like, see the beauty of Colorado while you're there. So thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Justin, and we look forward to seeing everybody in Higher Ground. RiseUpToMileHigh.com as we can get all the details.
Great.
Excellent. There we go. The more I talk to you, the more I really think we have very similar paths.
We do. We do.
We do. Well, I look forward to seeing you there, and thank you for taking the time, sir.
Thanks so much for having me, Danny, and I can't wait to see you in person. Give you a big hug.
We'll see you then. All right?
All right.
Have a great rest of your day. Love to the family.
Likewise.